What part of Southeast Asia is one of the most contested geographic regions in the world?
The Spratly Islands are a group of 100 small islands, islets, and reefs in the South China Sea. They are located between Vietnam, the Philippines, and East Malaysia. Though only comprised of 2 square miles, 5.2 square kilometers, and spread across 158,000 square miles. 400,000 square kilometers, of the South China Sea, these islands are of strategic importance. Ownership is contested by Vietnam, China, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Taiwan. Oil fields that yield nearly 15% of the petroleum used by the Philippines have been the center of the dispute. Each country feels that it should be able to negotiate and profit from the lucrative contracts and benefits that oil exploration and production might bring.
What is continentality?
Areas of a continent that are distant from an ocean, such as the central United States, experience greater extremes in temperature than do places that are closer to an ocean. These inland areas experience continentality. It might be very hot during the summer, but it can also get very cold in winter. Areas close to oceans experience moderating effects from the ocean that reduce the range in temperatures.
Who was the first European to reach North America?
In the early 11th century, Leif Erikson was the first European to set foot in North America. According to legend, Leif Erikson, a Norse explorer, visited Hiljeland, Markland, and Vinland, which are believed to be Baffin Island, Labrador, and Newfoundland, respectively.
Where are the 4 colored seas, black, yellow, red, and white?
The 4 colored seas are not geographically associated with one another. The Black Sea is located near the Balkan Peninsula and is bordered by Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine. It is also the home of the port city of Odessa. The Red Sea is located to the south of the Black Sea. Between the Arabian Peninsula, Saudi Arabia, and Africa. The Red Sea has been a major trade route for hundreds of years and has been especially useful since the completion of the Suez Canal. The White Sea is in northern Europe. It is part of the Arctic Ocean and is a Russian sea. It lies to the east of Finland. The Yellow Sea is far to the east, between China and the Korean Peninsula.
What is the world's largest gulf?
The Gulf of Mexico, which is approximately 600,000 square miles. 1.5 million square kilometers, is the world's largest gulf. The Gulf of Mexico is surrounded by Mexico, the southern coast of the United States, and Cuba, and is connected to the Caribbean Sea in the east.
When was the compass invented?
As early as the 11th century, the Chinese were using a magnetic needle to determine direction. At approximately the same time, the Vikings may have also used a similar device. A compass is simply a magnetic needle that points toward the magnetic North Pole.
Which is farther east, Santiago, Chile, or Miami, Florida?
Even though it lies on the west coast of South America. Santiago, Chile, is actually farther east than Miami, Florida. Though it is common to envision South America as directly south of North America. South America actually lies southeast of North America.
How large is Brazil?
Brazil makes up just under 50% of the land area of the entire South American continent. It is the world's fifth largest country, with 3.3 million square miles. 8.5 million square kilometers of territory.
What is Mardi Gras?
The Catholic festival Mardi Gras literally means Fat Tuesday in French. Parades, dancing, and carnivals are all part of this pre-Ash Wednesday celebration. Known as Carnival, it is very popular in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and New Orleans, Louisiana. The Brazilian festival is a significant source of tourism-related income for the country.
What is the longest river in the world?
Egypt's famous Nile River is the longest in the world. It is more than 4,100 miles, 6,597 kilometers, long from its sources in the Ethiopian highlands. The source of the portion of the Nile called the Blue Nile, and Lake Victoria, the source of the White Nile. The Nile Valley is the center of contemporary and ancient Egyptian civilization. Following the Nile in length are the Amazon, in Brazil, the Missouri, Mississippi, United States. The Chang, or Yangtze, China, the Huang, or Yellow, China, and the Obi, Russia.
What type of rocks are formed by lava?
Igneous rocks are formed when liquid magma under the surface of the earth. or lava on the surface of the earth, cools and hardens into rock.
Who owns Easter Island?
Easter Island, which is located 2,237 miles west of Chile, is owned by Chile. On this island, there are over 100 large rocks carved into the shape of heads, complete with facial features. These large heads vary in size from 10 to 40 feet, 3 to 12 meters, and were made out of a soft, volcanic rock.
Why isn't Tibet on the map?
Tibet is not on the map because it is no longer an independent country. Though Tibet was once a theocratic Buddhist kingdom, China annexed it in 1950. Tibet is now a mildly autonomous region in southwestern China with a puppet communist government. In addition to the destruction of the Tibetan Buddhist religion in the 1960s by China, China also moved Tibetans out of the area and moved ethnic Chinese into Tibet to help moderate Tibet's secessionist ideas.
Which country is the world's leading coffee producer?
Brazil produces more than 32.6 million bags of coffee beans each year, followed by Colombia, which produces 11.5 million bags.
How are interstate highways numbered?
Interstate highways are numbered according to their direction. Highways that run in an east-west direction are even numbered, while highways that run in a north-south direction are odd numbered. The lowest numbers are in the south and west, while higher numbers are in the north and east. For example, Interstate 10 is an east-west highway that runs from Santa Monica, California, to Jacksonville, Florida, thus, it has a even, low number. Interstate 95 is a north-south highway that runs from Holden, Maine, to Miami, Florida, thus, it has an odd, high number. Three-digit interstate highways are short spur routes connected to a two-digit interstate.
Is Equatorial Guinea on the equator?
No, Equatorial Guinea's southernmost point is still 1 degree north of the equator. Though Equatorial Guinea is close to the equator, its southern neighbor, Gabon, is truly equatorial.
Why do we have daylight saving time?
By moving our clocks forward 1 hour between spring and fall. We more effectively utilize the light of the sun to keep homes and businesses lit, saving electricity.
What is Melanesia?
Located northeast of Australia, Melanesia is a small region that lies south of the equator and west of 180 degrees longitude, but excludes New Zealand. Melanesia includes the countries of Vanuatu and Fiji as well as the Solomon Islands and New Caledonia.
What are the equinoxes?
There are two equinoxes, one on March 21 and the other on September 21. On both equinoxes, the sun is directly over the equator. March 21 heralds the beginning of spring in the northern hemisphere and the beginning of fall in the southern hemisphere. September 21 heralds the beginning of fall in the northern hemisphere and the beginning of spring in the southern hemisphere.
What is a meander?
Streams and rivers that have carved a flat floodplain commonly flow in curves known as meanders. These S-shaped curves vary by the size and flow of the river. The river flows faster on the outside curve of the meander, and therefore continues to cut and create a larger curve.
What is a moor?
A moor is uncultivated pasture land. You'll find moors in the United Kingdom. In the United States most people call them fields or prairies.
What is geographic illiteracy?
In 1989, the National Geographic Society commissioned a survey to find out how much Americans and residents of several other countries knew about the world around them. Unfortunately, American youth scored the worst. Swedes knew the most about world geography. The media subsequently reported the geographic illiteracy of the American population. Due to the attention given to this problem, geographic education has since become a greater priority for educators.
What do the Cumberland Road and Cumberland Gap have to do with each other?
Absolutely nothing. The Cumberland Road is more than 100 miles, 161 kilometers, from the Cumberland Gap. The Cumberland Gap, which lies near the border of Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, is a pass through the Appalachian Mountains at the Cumberland Plateau. The name Cumberland was extremely popular in colonial America, originating in the name of the British Duke of Cumberland.
Which country is the top exporter of goods and services?
Germany exports $1.113 trillion in goods and services. It is followed by the United States, with $1.024 trillion, and China, with $974 billion.
How many people were killed during the 2004 tsunami disaster in Asia?
More than 160,000 people were killed by the initial waves and the resultant flooding and destruction that followed.
How many countries are there in Africa?
Africa is home to more than a quarter of the world's countries. There are 47 independent countries on the continent itself and 53 if you include the nearby island countries of Comoros, Madagascar, Seychelles, Cape Verde, Mauritius, and São Tomé and Príncipe.
How do cartographers shape our world?
Cartographers are map makers and cartography is the art of map making. Cartographers map neighborhoods, cities, states, countries, the world, and even other planets. There are as many types of maps to make as there are cartographers to make them.
Is childbirth still a significant cause of death for women?
From the beginning of time until the mid-20th century. A leading cause of death for young women was complications during childbirth. Now, in developed countries, there is almost no risk of death during pregnancy and labor.
How did American slavery help found Liberia?
In 1822 the American Colonization Society succeeded in founding a colony on the western coast of Africa for freed American slaves. The colony was named Liberia from the Latin word liber, which means free. This colony became independent in July 1847, and was Africa's first independent country.
Where do most legal immigrants to the United States come from?
Of the approximately 1.2 million immigrants who come to live in the United States legally, Mexico is the top country of origin, 14.4%, followed by the People's Republic of China, 7.2%, and the Philippines, 6.2%.
Where is the Maghreb?
From the Arabic word for place of sunset or western. The Maghreb is a region of northwest Africa composed of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Sometimes Libya is also included. The name Maghreb remains from the term used by the Islamic Empire for this region.
Do things really disappear in the Bermuda Triangle?
The Bermuda Triangle, or Devil's Triangle, is a popular legend that suggests a supernatural or paranormal reason for a supposedly large number of missing aircraft and sea-going vessels within its area. The legend generally places the area of the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic Ocean, with its three corners located at Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and Miami, Florida. But you won't be able to find the Bermuda Triangle on a map since it is not a geographically or politically defined area, and its location is solely designated by the legend. Though the legend has circulated for at least a century, there seems to be little evidence that this area is subjected to anything but natural hazards and human error. Most of the evidence for the phenomena in the Bermuda Triangle stems from the disappearance of the 5 aircraft of Flight 19 in December 1945, as well as a search plane that was sent to find them. Though the popular version of the disappearance of Flight 19 assumes a mysterious end. A mixture of missing navigational apparatus, human error, low fuel, and choppy seas most likely led to the squadron's disappearance and demise.
How many near-Earth objects is NASA tracking?
Approximately 1,100 near-Earth objects are tracked by NASA.
Is Greenland really green?
In 982 C. Greenland was named by its first colonizer, Eric the Red. Having been banished from Iceland, Eric the Red established a colony on Greenland, and gave it a pleasant-sounding name, in order to attract other colonists. In reality, Greenland is not very green. Though small coastal areas are habitable, most of the island is mountainous and covered by ice sheets. Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark.
Who is the biggest exporter of rice in the world?
Thailand exports about 9.2 million metric tons of rice per year. About one-third of the total rice that is exported in the world. The Philippines imports the most rice in the world, approximately 2 million metric tons each year.
What is the world's largest island?
The world's largest island is Greenland, technically now known as Kalaallit Nunaat. Greenland is located in the North Atlantic Ocean near Canada. It is a territory of Denmark but has locally governed itself since 1979. It is approximately 840,000 square miles, 2,175,600 square kilometers. Australia, while it also meets the usual definition of an island, surrounded by water, and is larger than Greenland, is not considered an island but a continent.
What percentage of American adults use a cell phone?
More than 89% of American adults have cell phones. And 14% of American adults use only a cell phone and have no landline. Only 9% of Americans use only a landline to make phone calls.
How much of the Earth is covered by water?
About 70% of the surface area of the Earth is covered by water. The other 30% of the Earth is land located primarily in the northern hemisphere. If you look at a globe, you'll notice that the southern hemisphere has a great deal of ocean.
Which country is the world's leading lead producer?
Australia produces approximately 23.5% of the world's lead annually. Most of the lead is mined near Mt Isa in the northeast area of the country and near Broken Hill in the southeast.
What is the world's southernmost city?
Ushuaia, in southern Argentina, is the world's southernmost city. Ushuaia sits on Tierra del Fuego Island, south of the Strait of Magellan.
What is the Commonwealth?
The Commonwealth, also known as the British Commonwealth, consists of the United Kingdom and the now independent former countries of the British Empire. The Commonwealth is not a policy-making body but is solely a loose voluntary association between countries that were formerly under British control.
How do I convert Fahrenheit to Celsius to Kelvin?
Fahrenheit and Celsius are two common temperature scales used throughout the world. Temperature in Fahrenheit can be converted to Celsius by subtracting 32 and multiplying by 5. Divide that number by 9 and you have Celsius. Conversely, you can convert Celsius to Fahrenheit by adding 32, multiplying by 9 and finally dividing by 5. Kelvin, a system used by scientists, is based on the same scale as Celsius. All you have to do is add 273 to your Celsius temperature to obtain Kelvin. 0 degrees Kelvin is negative 273 degrees Celsius.
What is the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center?
Administered by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and based in Hawaii and Alaska. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center is the command center for monitoring and warning all nations which may be affected by a tsunami, with data from a network of 39 detection buoys called the Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami Array. The center can issue alerts of real-time earthquake activity in the Pacific Basin, and the tsunamis that may result, giving residents affected time to head to safe ground, away from low-lying coastal areas.
What is the Bight of Bonny?
Also called the Bight of Biafra, the Bight of Bonny is a bay located in the Gulf of Guinea, near Cameroon. The word bight is Old English for bay.
What port does landlocked Bolivia use?
Having no access to the sea itself, Bolivia made an agreement in 1992 with Peru to use its port at Ilo.
What do modern geographers do?
While there are a few jobs with the title of geographer, many geography students use their analytical ability and knowledge of the world to work in a variety of fields. Geography students often take jobs in fields such as city planning, cartography, marketing, real estate, environment, and teaching.
How old is the Korean civilization?
The Korean civilization is more than 4,000 years old, with archaeological evidence dating back to 2333 B.C.E.
Which religions came to be practiced first?
Before the advent of Judaism, many earlier religions were practiced, including Animaism. which is the worship of nature and natural phenomena like fire, wind, water, and earth. Judaism came into practice around 5000 BCE, followed by Zoroastrianism in 1000 BCE. Christianity in 30 CE and Islam in 600 CE.
What was the first airplane flown?
Orville and Wilbur Wright were the first two people to fly in a heavier-than-air vehicle, called the Flyer. They made their historic flight on December 17, 1903, at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina.
Where does the name El Niño come from?
The phenomenon of El Niño was discovered by Peruvian fishermen who noticed an abundance of exotic species that arrived with the warmer water. Since this usually occurred around the Christmas season, they called the phenomenon El Niño, which means the baby boy in Spanish, in honor of the Christ child. La Niña, the opposite cycle of El Niño, means the baby girl.
How do you drive to the island country of Bahrain?
Bahrain is located 15 miles, 24 kilometers, off the coast of Saudi Arabia and has been connected by a 4-lane causeway bridge to Saudi Arabia since 1986. Saudi Arabia paid for the construction of the causeway.
How many American troops are stationed in South Korea?
Currently, 22,500 U.S. troops still occupy South Korea, but only 160 are actually stationed in the demilitarized zone.
Which countries restrict internet access to what is deemed unfavorable content by their governments?
The following countries filter or restrict content that their citizens can access on the Internet: Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Myanmar, China, Ethiopia, India, Iran, Jordan, Libya, Morocco, Oman, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Korea, Sudan, Syria, Tajikistan, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkmenistan, United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, Vietnam, and Yemen.
How fast does the Earth spin?
It depends on where you are on the planet. If you were standing on the North Pole or close to it, you would be moving at a very slow rate of speed, nearly 0 miles per hour. On the other hand, those who live at the equator, and therefore have to move about 24,900 miles 40,000 kilometers in a 24-hour period, zoom at about 1,038 miles, 1,670 kilometers per hour. Those in the mid-latitudes, as in the United States, breeze along from about 700 to 900 miles, 1,126 to 1,448 kilometers per hour.
From where does the word fjord originate?
The word fjord comes from the Norse language and means where you travel across. It is significant to early Norwegians as a place to travel across to get to the sea when there were no bridges available.
Who won the Cold War?
The stalemate of the Cold War effectively ended when the people and governments of the former Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc countries decided that they needed a major change in the way in which they organized their government, societies, and economies. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 was only one indicator of the significance of this trend. Popular demonstrations and changes took place in all parts of the former USSR and Eastern Europe, leading inexorably to the downfall of the Soviet Union and its control of satellite states.
Why has Afghanistan been contested and invaded so many times?
Afghanistan sits at a crossroads linking Asia with the Middle East. For millennia, it was the major transit point along the Silk Road, which brought goods from Asia to and from the Middle East. In recent times, it has been treated as a geographically strategic location because of its potential for influencing the policies of countries in both regions. It is an ethnically diverse region that is home to many tribes and cultures, all of whom have been vying for some form of control or voice in the way in which the country is governed. Therefore, in the past several hundred years, major geopolitical players have sought to control, occupy, or colonize this country. Much of what we see happening in Afghanistan today has roots in conflicts dating back many centuries.
What catastrophe happened in North Korea in 1995?
Because of their isolation from former trading partners in the Soviet Union, coupled with poor relations with neighboring China. Failed economic policies that drove up the price of food, excessive military expenditures, and severe floods, the production of grain in North Korea fell below what was needed to sustain the population in 1995. This triggered food shortages and caused the deaths of between 1 and 3 million people. It is not clear how many people died during the 3-year famine, because the government does not report these types of figures. The United States gave approximately $600 million to North Korea to help prevent mass starvation. The largest donor country in the world. America contributed more than 50% of the total aid given to North Korea to help stop the famine.
Aside from the Louisiana Purchase, how was the American West obtained?
There were several other purchases and wars fought to gain the land west of the Louisiana Purchase. These included the Gadsden Purchase from Mexico. Sections of the West ceded to the United States by Mexico, Texas, and the Oregon Country.
How many states have land north of Canada's southernmost point?
"27 of the 50 states have land north of Canada's southernmost point, Pelee Island in Lake Erie.
What is the St. Lawrence Seaway?
Completed in 1959, the 183-mile, 294-kilometer, long St. Lawrence Seaway was built by deepening and widening the St. Lawrence River between Montreal, Canada, and Lake Ontario so that large ships could traverse it. The seaway consists of a series of locks that allow ships to travel from the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes, and ultimately onto Chicago. A limiting factor of the seaway is that ships can only use the seaway between May and November, as it is blocked by ice in the winter.
Does air pressure change with elevation?
Yes, it does. The higher you go, the less air, or atmospheric, pressure there is. Air pressure is also involved in weather systems. A low-pressure system is more likely to bring rain and bad weather versus a high-pressure system, which is usually drier. At about 15,000 feet, 4,572 meters, pressure is half of what it is at sea level.
Which country is composed of 7 sheikdoms?
The country of United Arab Emirates, located on the Arabian Peninsula, is composed of 7 sheikdoms, also known as emirates. The 7 emirates were defended by the United Kingdom in the 19th century, but merged to become an independent country in 1971. The 7 emirates, Abu Dhabi, Oman, Al Fujairah, Ash-Sharqa, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, and Al Quwain, are presently quite autonomous.
Why are the Blue Nile and White Nile rivers both called Niles?
The Nile River begins as two separate rivers, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. The White Nile begins its flow from Lake Victoria in eastern Africa, and the Blue Nile originates in the Ethiopian highlands. The Blue Nile and the White Nile converge in Khartoum, the capital of the Sudan, and form the Nile River, which continues onto the Mediterranean.
What is a hazard?
A hazard is any source of danger that can cause injury or death to humans or that can cause property damage. Hazards range from airline accidents to tsunamis to asteroids smashing into the Earth.
Are mega-urban area populations growing?
Despite what we might think, of the top 20 large urban areas in the world, nearly half experience population growth of only 1.5%.
How do farmers water their crops?
The process of artificially watering crops is called irrigation. In some areas of the world, agriculture can rely on rainfall for all its water needs. In drier areas, usually those receiving less than 20 inches, 51 centimeters of rainfall per year, irrigation is required. Water is pumped from aquifers or delivered via an aqueduct to the fields where it flows through small channels between plants, or is sprayed through sprinklers. In very water-conservative regions such as Israel, water is scientifically dripped onto plants, thereby providing the exact amount of water necessary.
What statue overlooks Rio de Janeiro?
The 100-foot-high, 30.5-meter-high, statue of Christ the Redeemer stands, arms outstretched, over the city of Rio de Janeiro. The statue of Jesus Christ, with its base on top of Corcovado Mountain at 2,340 feet, 713 meters, was built in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of Brazilian independence.
How salty is seawater?
About 3.5% of the weight of seawater is salt, not just sodium chloride or table salt, but also potassium chloride, calcium chloride, and other types of salts. This would equal just over 3 1/3 cups of salt in 1 gallon of seawater.
What is the Terracotta Army?
Located in Sienne, China, in Shanxi province, which was once the capital of the Chinese Empire for 13 dynasties. The Terracotta Army is one of the great archaeological finds of the 20th century. It was discovered by two farmers who were drilling for water in 1974. In the 3rd century BCE. The very first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, united China. Established the longest-running form of government, built the Great Wall, and built his own elaborate tomb. As a symbol of his rule and to guard himself in the afterlife. Qin Shi Huang had an entire army replicated approximately 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots with 520 horses, and 15 cavalry horses. All life-size and each with distinct facial expressions to guard the first emperor's mausoleum at Mtili in Xi'an, China.
Who decides where houses can be built?
Almost all American city governments have a department that is responsible for planning the layout of the city. The planning department for each city enforces and delineates zoning, which regulates the location of homes, businesses, factories, and even nuclear power plants.
What is a jungle?
A jungle is a forest that is composed of very dense vegetation. The term tropical rainforest can often be used interchangeably with jungle. Jungles occur most often in tropical areas such as the Amazon and Congo River basins.
What is a nautical mile?
Used for measuring ocean-based distances, a nautical mile is equivalent to approximately 6,076 feet. 1,852 meters, or 1.15 miles, 1.85 kilometers. The speed of ships is measured in knots. 1 knot is equivalent to 1 nautical mile per hour.
What were Lewis and Clark looking for?
President Thomas Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis and Army officer William Clark to search for a Northwest Passage, a waterway that would connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Beginning in May 1804 and lasting through September 1806. The two men and their expedition party traveled through the uncharted Louisiana Territory and the Oregon Territory. Though they did not locate a Northwest Passage, Lewis and Clark documented the geography of the West.
How thick is the Earth's crust?
The thickness of the Earth's crust varies at different points around the planet. Under continents, the crust is approximately 15 miles, 24 kilometers. Thick, but under the oceans it is a mere 5 miles, 8 kilometers, thick.
What is the lowest point on dry land?
The world's lowest point is still the Dead Sea shoreline. At approximately 1,378 feet, 420 meters, below sea level.
Which advanced industrial democracy ranks last in giving? Foreign aid is calculated as a percentage of its GNP.
The United States, although giving the highest amount in dollars of any country, contributes the least amount of money in foreign assistance as a percentage of GNP, less than 0.16%.
What are volcanoes?
Volcanoes are the result of magma rising or being pushed to the surface of the earth. Hot liquid magma, which is located under the surface of the earth, rises through cracks and weak sections of rock. The mountain surrounding a volcano is formed by lava, called magma, until it arrives at the Earth's surface. That cools and hardens, making the volcano taller or wider or both.
Does the Earth always rotate and revolve around the Sun at the same speed?
No, the Earth's revolution around the Sun and rotation on its axis are not perfect. Its daily rotation may vary by approximately 4 to 5 milliseconds, and is slowing down at a rate of 1 millisecond each century, due to tidal friction. Additionally, the axis wobbles slightly, and the length of revolution around the Sun varies by a few milliseconds.
What were the Buddhas of Bamiyan?
The Buddhas of Bamiyan were two gigantic sculptures, one measuring 180 feet, 55 meters, and the other 121 feet, 37 meters, high, that were built in the 6th century CE. Located 143 miles, 230 kilometers, northwest of Kabul, Afghanistan. They were designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and were one of the great archaeological and religious sites in the world. In 2001, the Taliban regime in Afghanistan ordered their destruction, and they were dynamited. Many countries, including Japan and Switzerland, have pledged their support to rebuild these cultural treasures.
What are the Balkan states?
The Balkan states and the Baltic states are two completely different regions. The countries lying on the Balkan Peninsula are commonly referred to as the Balkan states, or the Balkans. The Balkan Peninsula itself lies between the Adriatic Sea, east of Italy, and the Black Sea. The countries on the peninsula include Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Greece, Macedonia, Romania, Serbia and Montenegro, Slovenia, and the portion of Turkey that lies in Europe.
What is the longest bridge in the world?
Completed in 1956, the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway that connects New Orleans with Mandeville, Louisiana, is 24 miles, 38.6 kilometers, long, the longest bridge in the world. A parallel bridge adding 2 more lanes was completed in 1969.
Which Middle Eastern country has the largest population?
Egypt is the most populous country in the Middle East, with over 75 million people. Just behind Egypt is Iran, with over 71 million people, followed by Turkey, with over 70 million people.
Who decides which names go on maps?
In the United States, the U.S. Board on Geographic Names, BGN, approves the official names and spellings of cities, rivers, lakes, and even foreign countries. If a town would like to change its name, it must petition the BGN for approval. Upon approval, the name is officially changed and updated in federal government gazettes and records. Which official and commercial map makers use for their maps?
What is a strait?
A strait is a narrow body of water between islands or continents that connects 2 larger bodies of water. 2 of the most famous straits are the Strait of Gibraltar, which connects the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, and the Strait of Hormuz, which connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman.
What is a renewable resource?
A renewable resource is one that can be replenished within a generation. Forests, as long as they are replanted, are a renewable resource. Materials such as oil, coal, and natural gas are known as non-renewable resources because they require millions of years to be created. So, once the world's supply of oil is gone, it's gone for a long, long time.
How many capital cities does South Africa have?
South Africa has 3 capitals. Pretoria is the administrative capital. Bloemfontein is the capital of the judiciary, and Cape Town is the legislative capital.
What does the word geography mean?
The word geography is of Greek origin and can be divided into 2 parts. Geo, meaning the earth, and graphy, which refers to writing. So geography can be loosely translated to writing about the earth. Ancient geography was often descriptions of far-away places. But modern geography has become much more than writing about the earth. Contemporary geographers have a difficult time defining the discipline. Some of my favorite definitions include the bridge between the human and the natural sciences, the mother of all sciences, and anything that can be mapped.
What is the Sarai Arab Democratic Republic?
Although not a fully recognized country because of an international border dispute, Sarai claims sovereignty over all of the territory of the former Spanish colony of Western Sahara. A part of the territory of Western Sahara is considered by Morocco to be a province of Morocco. Sarai is a member of the African Union.
Where is the Jutland Peninsula?
The Jutland Peninsula extends north from Germany and is home to the country of Denmark.
When did the Chinese Empire begin naval exploration?
During the Song dynasty, 960-1270 c. The Chinese began to build seafaring trade ships. It was during the Yuan dynasty, 1271-1368 CE, that Chinese traders began to appear in the ports of Ceylon, Sri Lanka, India, and as far west as Africa. They were seeking goods for the royal kingdom, such as spices, ivory, medicine, and tropical woods.
What is the tallest skyscraper in the world?
The Burj Dubai skyscraper is currently the tallest structure. When completed, it will reach a height of over 2,064 feet, 629 meters. It has surpassed the CN Tower in Toronto, Canada, which since 1976 was the world's tallest building at 1,815 feet, 553.3 meters.
What is the air made of?
The air near the Earth's surface is primarily nitrogen and Oxygen nitrogen comprises 78% and oxygen 21%. The remaining 1% is mostly argon, 0.9%. A little carbon dioxide, 0.035%, and other gases, 0.06%.
What were Lewis and Clark looking for?
President Thomas Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis and Army officer William Clark to search for a Northwest Passage, a waterway that would connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Beginning in May 1804 and lasting through September 1806. The two men and their expedition party traveled through the uncharted Louisiana Territory and the Oregon Territory. Though they did not locate a Northwest Passage, Lewis and Clark documented the geography of the West.
How are waves created?
Waves are created by wind blowing across the surface of the water. Though waves appear to move along the surface of the water, they are simply the movement, oscillation, of water up and down due to the friction of the air. When waves occur near the shore, they may become steeper and break.
What is the tallest dam in the world?
Tajikistan is home to the world's two tallest dams, Rogan and Nurek. Rogan is about 1,100 feet, 335 meters, tall, about 100 stories. And Nurek is about 985 feet tall, 300 meters. The United States' tallest dam, Oroville, in Northern California, is 16th on the world list at 755 feet, 230 meters.
Where does the Tour de France begin and end?
The Tour de France changes its course each year, but the last leg is always along Paris's famous boulevard, the Champs-Élysées. The bicycle race is approximately 2,000 miles, 3,200 kilometers, long and takes 25 to 30 days to complete.
What is a tropical rainforest?
A tropical rainforest is a rainforest that lies between the Tropic of Cancer in the north and the Tropic of Capricorn in the south, i.e. within the tropics. Tropical rainforests are known for their very diverse species of plant and animal life. Tropical rainforests exist throughout Central America, northern Brazil, the Congo River Basin, and Indonesia.
Are all Israelis Jewish?
No, they are not. About 80% of Israelis are Jewish, and the remaining 20% are predominantly Arabs.
What is the most common street name in the United States?
It's not Main Street. Second, Third, First, and Fourth Streets are the most common, followed by Park, Fifth, and Main.
What are the world's newest countries?
In the 1990s, over 24 new countries appeared on the map. These included 15 new countries that were created when the USSR broke up in 1991: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. The dissolution of Yugoslavia also created several new countries in 1991 and 1992: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Macedonia, Serbia, and Montenegro, and Slovenia. In 1993, Eritrea became independent of Ethiopia, and Czechoslovakia dissolved into the Czech Republic and Slovakia. That same year, the Pacific Island countries of the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Palau all became independent. In 1990, Namibia split from South Africa to become its own country, while East and West Germany combined to become Germany.
What state has only one legislative body?
Nebraska has a unicameral legislature, all other 49 states have two houses.